So I went really fast in class with the type 2 basic equations. So I'm going to make a video re-explaining it in case you didn't understand when I first explained. I wouldn't blame you. It was very rushed. So basically the idea for this here is instead of having a theta, we have a 3x, but it really is the same at the beginning at least as solving simply the equation. Sine of theta is equal to 0. So if I do that, so sine of theta is equal to 0 means the y-coordinate on the circle is equal to 0. The y-coordinate would be right here. So it's along this line here. Along this line here, all y-coordinates are equal to 0, meaning we have two angles as per usual. Sometimes there's just one, but in this case, two angles. So if I were to solve this equation, first of all, to find theta, there would be two different ways I could write this down. The first way, which is the one we taught it about, which is using two separate angles, would be saying, well, it means that theta 1 is equal to 0 plus 2 pi n. And then the second angle would be theta 2 is equal to pi, so it's pi, it's the one on the other side. So pi plus 2 pi n. 2 pi n. All right. The other way we can do this one is by merging the two of them together. We don't actually need two separate thetas to be able to describe this because 0, all the answers that would work on this circle would be 0, and then on the other side, pi, on the other side, 2 pi, 3 pi, 4 pi, 5 pi, and so on. So all the answers, if I merge theta 1 and theta 2 together, I would simply get theta is equal to pi n. Because then when n is equal to 0, we get 0. When n is equal to 1, we get pi. When n is equal to 2, we get 2 pi. So we do get all of the answers by just merging them as theta equals to pi n. So I'm going to use this for the following just because it's a slightly more simple. This question, however, is not asking you to solve for theta. It's asking you to solve for x. So in this case, when I had first simplified this problem as to sine of theta is equal to 0, what I really did was saying, well, let theta equals to 3x. So now what I would do is substitute back in there. So I would get 3x is equal to pi n. Therefore, if I want to simplify and find what just x is, I would get pi divided by 3 times n. And this is effectively my answer now because I have found x, and this is what the question was asking. Because remember, we always want to find the unknown that is in the question. In this case, it's x, so finding theta would not be the full problem. All right, so this is it for this one. It's fairly simple overall. When I actually solve it, usually I don't do the substitution for theta. I go straight to saying, well, it means that 3x is equal to pi n. So it depends on your comfort. If for you it makes more sense to first substitute and then substitute back, you can do that. If you're comfortable enough and confident, you can simply just say, well, 3x is equal to pi n because you know internally that 3x is actually the angle. The other example I gave you was slightly more complicated. So we had 2 times cos of 2x plus pi over 6 is equal to root of 3. So of course, the first thing we did was dividing by 2 on each side to get cos of 2x plus pi over 6 is equal to root 2 over 2. So again, I would use the same idea as above, which is using a simple substitution for theta. So theta would be equal to 2x plus pi over 6, which means what we're solving with at this point would be cos of theta is equal to root 3 over 2, which is really just a basic equation. So using my circle as per usual, cos is an x coordinate. So it's going to be the third one. We have 1/2 first, and then root 2 over 2, and then root 3 over 2. So the one I need is this one. And I have 2 more along here. So the first angle is always pi over 6, and then the one down here will be minus pi over 6. So if you want to write it down, I'm going to write it here just because it's so small. And then minus pi over 6 for this one. So theta 1 is going to be equal to pi over 6 plus 2 pi n. And theta 2 is going to be equal to minus pi over 6 plus 2 pi n. That's a plus, a very horrible plus. But again, like I said, our goal is to find x, not find theta. So here what I would do, I'm just going to bring this one up here. So I'm going to substitute back with this one. So if theta 1 is equal to 2x plus pi over 6, I'm going to write 2x1 because this is for theta 1. Wow, this is not working. Okay, so 2x1 plus pi over 6 is equal to pi over 6 plus 2 pi n. 2 pi n. This is not what I wanted to write. Okay, so plus 2 pi n. So now you could subtract pi over 6 on each side. So these are gone, and then we're just left with dividing by 2. So really your first answer will be pi n, and that's it. So this is my answer for x. And then we would do the same thing for the second one, and again substitute back to get 2x2 plus pi over 6 is equal to, so the second angle was minus pi over 6 plus 2 pi n. I would minus pi over 6 on each side. So really what we have is minus pi over 6 minus pi over 6 on the right side, which is going to be minus 2 pi over 6, which is really, by just simplifying this, minus pi over 3. So what we get is 2x2 is equal to minus pi over 3. And that's a 3, just be creative, plus 2 pi n. This is not working at all. Okay, no. Okay, this is 2 pi n, guys. I can't write. But basically now we would be left with just isolating by dividing by 2. So this would be minus pi over 3 divided by 2 is minus pi over 6. And 2 pi n divided by 2 is just pi n. I really apologize. This is not working anymore. I don't know why. All right, so our two answers would be basically x1 is equal to pi n and x2 is equal to minus pi over 6 plus pi n. And that is it. If you have any questions, and this is still unclear after this video, please come join consultation. It's really essential.